Resident Evil Podcast.
The Empire strikes back with multiple laser attack, Decepticon infiltration, stealing information, tapping communications with recordicons, target massive sound wave stereo. I don't believe in a no-win scenario for an epic adventure, no retreat, no surrender. Cleaning up the city with Mayor Mike Hagar, clashing with the Foot Clan in the shadows of the streetlights, spotlights, bright lights, and if you've got a new pet, don't feed him after midnight. Cruising on our bicycles, we never say die. From the attic to the basement, uncovering the secrets with the power bracelet. Ryu and Ken style, kicking it on the pavement. 88 miles per hour, we out of time. Meanwhile, at Warp Zone.
Welcome to Meanwhile at Warp Zone. My name is Scott, and I have a couple of guys here with me. Carrie? Josh, is that your name? I don't.
He doesn't remember us.
I know,
No, he doesn't.
I'm so drunk right now. But, of course, as you heard from our intro, we are going to talk about everything that is Resident Evil. And so I kind of wanted to make, just because it's Resident Evil and, you know, just how many endless nights that I spent awake just thinking about Resident Evil, I thought we should just make the whole podcast one big scary business. I don't know, whatever. So what I'm going to do for at least the beginning of it, I'm going to spend my time playing this game called Five Nights at Freddy's. And 250 megabyte game, point and click, not much to it, scares the pants out of every reviewer that I've read on Steam. And, you know, it scared the pants out of me a little bit. But,
It's basically like a morbid Chuck E. Cheese location that Scott has to be the security guard of and not be murdered to death by a Chuck E. Cheese character.
yes, and it's gotten me several times. We just lost a camera backstage, so I'm freaking out a little bit right now. But, oh, jeez, I just turned on the audio because apparently it was off. But, I thought we could start with, once again, a question of the week. And, of course, I aptly wondered, you know, what's your favorite scary movie, Josh and Carrie and Scott? So I feel like since I'm busy, you guys should go first. Josh and Carrie, what's your favorite scary movie? I know mine automatically.
Oh, man, I'm going to have to think about that. So.
Give me a second, too.
Because, Carrie, I know you guys aren't.
We're not as big of horror
You're not the horror
as
fans
Scott.
that I am. And
I am a big fan of the Resident Evil series. I haven't played all of them. My first is my favorites are the first and fourth ones. But I'm not a big horror movie guy like Scott is. I would have to say, and I'm always the cop-out guy, can I go with a series versus a singular movie?
not if I know what it is.
You're going to know what it is.
What is? All right, go ahead.
I've always been a fan of the Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh,
series.
okay. I thought you were going to say like something like Walking Dead or something.
No,
like that.
no.
I was going to be like that.
And the reason I like it, because to me, it's not just about horror. It's a lot of cool visual effects. And, you know, back when I was probably in high school when I got into it, because I really was never a horror guy. But then I caught, you know, part of one of those movies, and, you know, I saw something that was cool to me. And I just remember all those different effects, like somebody running up the stairs and their feet start melting into the stairs and stuff like that. Like, it's just cool.
Yes. That was some dude sitting in a chair and it just completely sucking him in was like an overwhelming memory from that.
And yeah, it was just like, it was really the visual stuff back then for me. That was just, I had not seen stuff like that before, and I thought it was amazing. I mean, Freddy's a cool character. You know, what little kid hasn't run around, you know, with the Freddy claw for Halloween? You know, I think when I was in elementary school, like half the kids came in with a Freddy claw. You know, they didn't even have the full costume; they just had the Freddy claw and stuff like that. And it was just, he was always a big deal in my childhood. And I never wanted to watch the movies when I was a kid, because I was never a scary movie guy, and I was the kid that was afraid to watch them. But, you know, when I was a little bit older, teenager and whatnot, I was like, you know, I'm gonna check these out, and I thought they were pretty cool. The first horror movie I remember watching as a kid, just to throw out there, in addition to your question, is and Scott's about to be murdered. He just put the door down in time to save himself from what kind of animal would you call it? Some kind of animatronic
I think
bear?
it might. I don't know. I think
Freddy?
that's a bunny.
Is that a bunny?
That's a bunny.
Oh,
They're very creepy.
Oh man.
but right at the doorway too, and you looked at him for so long.
I know. I am not reacting as fast as I should. This is not real. If this was a real animatronic bunny coming after me, I would be been long.
So Scott is very nervous during this podcast, trying to stay alive while podcasting.
I don't deal well with, and as you'll come to learn from this podcast, I don't deal well with horror video games because
he doesn't like to be murdered.
There's no, it's completely different from a regular horror movie.
There's immersion. I want you to make sure you keep in your. And he's dead. And he's dead.
I will bleep all
that. Was not a very long. I think that you should go ahead and try it again.
I'm going to try it again.
You were killed quite quickly.
But what the problem is with movies as opposed to video games, horror wise, is it's completely, there's a separation between the movies and the watcher of the movies, because you're like, it's not my problem. But in the games, that is your problem.
Yes,
it's
you
basically
are in that movie. Then.
You must deal with the problem that is at hand, and if you don't, you're gonna die, and it's gonna be awful.
Yes.
So that is what I'm dealing with right now.
But jumping back to what I was saying before Scott was brutally killed by
an animatronic
just
bunny,
twisted looking thing. I was wanted to, I like to share my little memories here. 5-year-old Carrie, it was either 4 or 5. I caught.
This is your first horror movie.
Yes, I didn't watch the whole thing, but I was observing Friday the 13th. My parents were watching, and they didn't really ever censor me on anything.
Nope, me neither.
So I just kind of walked in, and they were watching it, and as long as I didn't say anything, they was just left on. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to watch this.
Which one? Do you remember which one it was?
I don't know which one it was. I just know it was Friday the 13th because it was Jason. This is, several years later recollecting the memory and realizing what it was, basically.
Could have been New Nightmare. You would have had nothing to be afraid of. Because
it would have been too.
Well,
New Nightmare. This is.
I don't even know when that came out.
That's Freddy. This is Jason.
Oh, this is Jason you're talking about.
Yeah.
Why did I hear Friday the whole time?
Oh, I did accidentally say Nightmare on Elm Street, and then I corrected myself and said Friday the 13th.
Man, this whole time I've had Freddy in my mind.
Well, that's what I said for my favorite.
Yes.
Series.
Yes. Okay.
But
Jason is a different level, especially the first couple.
I don't know. Jason for me is you just gotta be the diehard of the series because it's cool. I've watched most of the Jason movies, in my teenage years as well, because it's just after I don't know, I just felt like it's something I needed to do. I don't know why, but
you really shouldn't have felt that way.
I just did it.
I just so happened at one time my parents had all the movie channels. There he is. Okay. And they had all the HBOs were playing all the Friday the 13th, and they were playing at the same time, and so you could just tell the way they made these movies, there was just plot point, this had to happen, this had to happen, and I was flipping between, and I'm like, okay, this person's gonna die, flip the next one, all right, this is the time for this guy to die in a ridiculous way, and it's just same movie outline, different people. Yeah, and it was I don't understand who makes these movies. They're oh, I'm fine with just going by the book. I'm looking at the last movie, and this is how we're gonna make it. And even the beginning was the same. There's always this ragtag group of douches that are doing a seance to bring Freddy back to life. Or Jason, I'm sorry. And what? Why? And then he made me murder some. Of course.
The ones that stand out to me, and I gonna guess that it's like diehards, probably don't care for these as much. But I really liked Jason Goes to Hell. Because it added a different element as to why he came back, and it had some explanation about some of that stuff. I mean, it was probably disappointing to some of the people, but I liked that it gave an explanation. And then I thought the one where he's in space is hilarious. I just laugh and laugh at that one because I remember them making like a holodeck type situation where they had some campers, and the next thing you see. Because they're in a sleeping bag.
It's like immediately.
He's holding it like Santa Claus's sack and beating them off of a tree to kill them. And it's hilarious.
Like he has
repeatedly smacking this sleeping bag
I think he was
full of people.
beating the sleeping bags together.
They were both in the same one, and he was hitting them off the tree.
And it was of course, the stereotypical
teenagers
girls and bikinis or whatever. And he immediately... not even 5 minutes later, he just murdered them all.
Yeah, they're all dead. So
in the holodeck.
The holodeck just couldn't, satisfy his bloodlust.
There's not enough. I have to say, the Jason Goes to Hell, I actually turned off, and it took me a year or two later to actually finish it.
Really?
Because I at that point, and it scared me. It scared me, but I was like, this is not good. But then after I watched it, I thought, there's a lot of good aspects to it. With the victims, they actually did somehow manage to make you care about some of them. Just even the seconds that they were alive on screen, they were there's one couple was just trying to have a baby, and they're like, "Come on, baby, we're gonna go home again." And boom, they're dead.
Boom, they're dead.
I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that was the saddest thing I've ever seen in my entire life." But it was successful. I don't know.
All right, guys.
These are things I think about. Go ahead.
I've taken us really off topic. I do want to just point out again that Scott is still monitoring his scary Chuck E. Cheese, and there are several.
They're on their way. They're on their way.
Critters coming to get him.
For him.
I got
44% power left to control the lights and the doors to keep himself safe.
It's only 3 a.m. He's got
to
make it 6.
3 more hours left.
But one of you gentlemen, it's your turn to go with your favorite horror movie.
You got one yet, Josh?
I have several. There's one that I can't remember the name of, and I'll try to leave that for last. But The Exorcist. Oh man, I just remember watching The Exorcist and just always being super disturbed.
Yeah,
in that movie.
It's
crazy.
It'll do
that. Hellraiser was always one.
That's another series that I've watched all of them.
These kinds of
creative.
Movies. I never watched them at home. Every summer, I would either go to a cousin's house or go to camp, and it would always be at a cousin's house because they'd be like, "Hey, let's watch this movie," and they would never even say it's a horror movie. They're like, "Hey, let's watch this new movie. It's out." And I'm like, "What is it?" Oh, it's super cool. Let's watch it. And then they'd put this in, and I'd be like, "Oh my!" Another one would be Pet Sematary.
Yeah, that's a crazy one.
Pet Sematary. But there's one that I can't remember what the name was, and it was a summer camp one. And it was camp something, and everyone of course gets murdered, and at the end you find out that it's this sweet girl that's doing all the murdering, and it's not a girl. It turns out to be a guy, and that's the end scene is the chick is there standing naked, and it's
on the door,
and it's it's a guy. It's not a girl. But the guy looks like a girl the entire time and is played off as a girl. And I don't remember what the name is. It was super creepy. I was like, what is happening? Yeah.
You'll have to look that up.
I'll have to look it up.
So we can reveal what it actually turns out to be.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like whenever I was trying to think of my, I can't remember, my guilty pleasure movie that we couldn't think of when we looked it up, the one with the snow, snow battle.
Yeah.
Which one? Oh, the
dog who stopped the war.
Yes.
So we need to find out what this one is.
We should.
Well.
Once I die.
Josh is going to look it up.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to find it.
Well, then I guess I'll talk about mine.
Scott is down to 14%. He's still alive, and it's 5 a.m. in the game.
I have an hour left. I think I'm going to make it.
As long as he can just not be murdered. His
man.
power's going down, though. It's at 11%.
They're going to stuff me inside of a suit.
You got to tell your favorite movie while you're staying alive, because you got to have the split attention.
Yeah.
Well, let me just start with the story of the first time that I saw this movie. I know I'm a
You're right on the verge of dying there.
Son of a bitch. But
they're going to come get you.
Oh, man.
They're right there.
No, they're not. Shut up.
Don't turn that light off. Turn it back on.
Oh, you got 5% power.
Ah, damn it. But I got so little time left.
4%. Keep telling the story.
So I probably was.
Turn that light on. See if
Turn
he's
the light
there.
on.
I'm
Tell the
turning it
story.
on.
You got 1%.
Tell the story.
That's it. I'm done. If he comes, he comes.
You just gotta wait it
That's
out
it.
now. He's out of power. Oh, the lights are
Oh,
out.
the lights are out and he's stuck. Is he
What
gonna
happens?
make
I
it?
don't know.
What happens?
I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's in the doorway.
He's in the doorway.
Looks like
It's
Fozzie
5
Bear.
a.m.
I made
Oh,
it!
you made it! It turned 6 a.m. just as they got
Suck
to the
it,
doorway.
Freddie. That's all I
His
wanna
eyes
say.
were glowing
you
and
go ahead and
flashing
tell
at
your
him.
story.
So
Load the next
okay,
night.
I'm 12 years old, probably maybe more, probably younger, 10 years old. Let's just say that. It's middle of the afternoon, and I walk in. I'm in my bedroom, which is right next to the living room. And my dad's watching a movie, and at this particular part, some guy's lying on a bed, and he's like shaking around, and some guy tries to do the defibrillators on him, and as he's doing the defibrillators on him, his chest collapses. The guy's defibrillator and the hands go inside of his chest, and the chest turns into a big mouth with sharp teeth, and they close on the guy's hands. Some other guy comes out of nowhere with an axe, chops the guy's whose chest is now a mouth head off. The head falls onto the ground. The thing is like, the head is like writhing on the ground, and all of a sudden it opens its mouth, and spider legs come out of it. Keep in mind, 10 years old, maybe less.
I know what this is, by the way.
Spider legs come out, and it crawls out of the room, and I am like,
What just happened?
what? I'm no longer innocent. I have nowhere to go. Jeez, he's already there.
Close the door.
It's the third
Better
night.
Close the door.
I don't know if I should. I don't want to waste the power.
Oh, it's gonna get you.
Oh,
if
this
you
is a
don't.
bad idea. This
The
is a bad
duck's
idea.
gonna kill him. It's a duck wearing a.
I don't want to
t-shirt.
close the
Is he
door.
wearing a
'cause
T-shirt or a bib that says,
says,
it's a
"Let's
bib.
eat."
It's
It's
a
a
bib that says "Let's eat," and he's gonna
Oh.
eat Scott if he doesn't
yeah,
close
you
the
get
door.
here so quick.
He's got you.
Oh, that's
got
it.
you.
I'm gonna.
Oh,
And
you ate your face off.
They really like kind of give you like an inkling that it's happening because you can't.
Because the
turn
buttons
off the
won't
light.
work anymore. You
Yeah.
can't turn the lights on.
too
Alright,
late.
that's it, I'm done.
It's too late.
Scott's dead.
And of course, if anybody's actually seen the movie, which they really should, is The Thing with Kurt Russell.
It's awesome.
And I have a man crush on Kurt Russell, so I've seen almost all of his movies.
And of course, that movie resonating in my childhood, scaring the pants off of me.
It's all in the reflexes.
It is
I
on the
went back
reflexes.
and I was like, Dad, what the hell were you watching 5 years ago? And he's like, oh, it was a thing. Scary movie.
Scary ass movie. And it's actually a remake.
It is a remake, and it's but they're actually this version, The Thing with Kurt Russell, actually sticks closer to the source material.
Was the original movie just called The Thing, or was it called The Thing from
I
Outer
think
Space?
it was just called The Thing.
For some reason, I thought it had a.
But my dad will talk about The Thing from Outer Space all day long
Okay.
because he loves to
It's a different movie.
he loves that he has that knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a different movie. It's got the guy from Everybody Loves Raymond, the grandpa.
Oh,
He's the Thing from Outer Space.
he is
'Cause
a
he's
thing from
enormous.
outer space.
But scared to this day, still cannot watch that movie without being extremely disturbed.
And I mean, I've heard from many people, because I will admit, this is one of the Kurt Russell movies I have not watched, but I plan on doing so because in the future I've told Scott I want to do a John Carpenter episode.
Yes, I think that's a great idea.
Because I love the escape movies, and I love Big Trouble.
Oh,
Which,
man. Yes.
it's good stuff.
Which Josh is actually wearing a shirt right now. The Trucker, the Sorcerer, and the Thunder.
It's all in the reflexes.
So Josh already went, right?
I did.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
trying to find the name of that last movie.
Yeah, he's just looking that up.
But you
So
said a couple, right?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
I did.
so
I
you-
said
you
I
progressed.
said
Yeah, I think we
Exorcist.
can
I said Pet
progress.
Cemetery.
I think we should just go right into it and talk about the video game.
Resident Evil.
I like how it's the same guy. Like, we literally watched a montage of every single Resident Evil, got the intro to every Resident Evil. did not change.
Yeah, it sounds
There was
sounds the
no-
same.
There's like recording quality
Inflection
changes and
change.
Yeah,
compression
slight
changes over
changes,
the years.
changes,
It's
but-
like
exactly the same.
the format of media that they have it on from way
Yeah.
back to PlayStation 1 all the way up through the current generation systems.
The guy's just waiting for the call. He's like, all right, another
All
Resident
right,
Evil's coming out. I gotta
I'm
do
gonna have
it.
to say the name of the game 4,700
More
times.
times in the
You're
studio.
gonna pay me my $50 and I get lunch for the day. That's
I am
it.
the I am Groot of the video game
I
voiceover
have to do it in
industry.
Japanese too for Biohazard fans.
Biohazard.
Which is a little bit of trivia for everybody. Here, hold on. Little bit of trivia for everybody. It is actually called Biohazard in Japan. And
Every single one of them. Every single one. Any time they come out, it's always called Biohazard in Japan.
And I have a very distinct recollection of playing Resident Evil for the first time. I'm thinking I was probably 14 or 15 years old. I can't remember exactly what year it was, but I think that's the right
That
range.
seems about right. Let me just look.
And I had an older cousin who was about 10 years older than me, and I always wanted to go to his house and hang out because, he was, into video games and stuff like that. So I wanted, why wouldn't you want to go to your cousin's house where he lets you stay up all night playing video games? And I remember going there, and I don't believe it was even his. I think he was borrowing from his friend the PS1 and the very first Resident Evil. And it just blew my mind because these people put this in, and it's just like I never saw anything like this before. It's a horror game, and it's like, and I know there's other stuff that predate it, but for me, this was the first experience into the whole survival horror genre. And God, I just remember that intro sequence where those people are running through that field to get to that mansion.
I was immediately terrified.
Yeah.
Immediately.
It just sets up, back then too, you look at it now and the graphics can kind of make you detach from it more, but at the time those were cutting edge graphics. You didn't, there was nothing like that. And
Running
it was
through the
so
woods.
intense and
Dogs coming
and
after him.
and you get in that mansion and it's just like there's just this ominous feeling the whole time, and everybody's nervous in the game, and it makes you nervous, and the music's nerve-wracking.
There's something about the horror, like the survival horror of a video game. There's no release. It's just constant tension.
Yeah, there's not usually a lot of downtime where
There's no
it's calm.
like in a movie where there's like a pop when everybody gets to breathe for 5 seconds. There's no breath.
No, there's not.
In a video game where it's a survival horror.
Because even if nothing's going on, you're waiting for it to happen.
Yeah,
so it's like
it could happen at any moment.
this could be a perfectly safe corridor for you to be walking down, but you don't know that unless
Yeah.
you've played the game before. But if you haven't and it's the first time you're playing it, you're on edge the whole time because you're waiting for that next thing to happen.
96. That's crazy.
Yeah, and that long box cover that it had, it's an iconic cover, and it's got those giant spiders. And God, let me tell you, it doesn't bother me as much now, but as a child, I hated spiders, and those giant spiders in the game were not making it any better for me. But I tell you, I think the part that I jumped the most at in that game is the dogs in the hallway. When those dogs come running at you, and
I remember that
there's just
now.
no experience.
I blocked that out of my.
I
I
have to
blocked
tell
that
you,
out of
I
my
never made it
memory.
past that.
There is no
Never made it
experience
past
like
it.
that because they're just running at you too.
Just jump, and you got to get the hell out of there. And it's just it's the first time in a game that you got this huge jump scare, and everything leading up to that is just this incredibly. You're in an empty mansion.
Yes.
You run into one zombie,
and he
you
just
can't shoot him
lurches
in-
at you a little
Yeah,
bit. So it kind of gives you a little dip in the water.
It's yes, and it's like that building, and then
But
all
those
of a sudden,
dogs,
boom.
Yeah, we're gonna F.
And there's
you
a
up.
million of them. There's 4 of them or something.
I think the first set there's only 2.
Okay,
it
but
might
they
as-
jump
yeah,
through
there's-
both windows,
yes,
and you're like,
yes.
okay, I'm never going back
And
there
it's
ever
like,
again.
wait a minute, is that a dog? It is a dog without any fucking skin. So it's even more off-putting because it's not just some freaking dog chasing you. It is a skinless dog coming after.
Yeah.
So that was literally the scariest moment in gaming for me. was the dogs.
How about the controls, though? I got to ask about that, because a lot of people refer to it as tank steering with the character, because up is always forward in that game. Like, up is always forward, and then you have to left and right.
I
like
couldn't...
Tank steering, they call
I could
it.
never shoot anybody in the head. I know they, like, tell you, like, you gotta tap it, and then it's like...
tap it.
You kind of, like...
I wasted a
catch
lot
it
of
at the
ammo.
right moment and fire. I'm like, why isn't this easier? I could definitely do this.
It's
a lot
intentionally made that way.
It's just
a
incredibly
lot of
difficult.
the diehards, because I know they've changed it in later incarnations of the game. A lot of the diehards were fans of that control style
That's
because
ridiculous.
it kind of went hand,
It's what they grew up on.
Yeah, it went hand in hand with Resident Evil. And God, I mean, Scott's looking at here, the platforms that this game has been on is just nuts too. I mean, it's been on like every system since it came out.
It's a very popular franchise.
The first one, it still just holds, it holds a high regard for me. My favorite one is not the first one though, and like again, super cop out guy. My favorite one's the most popular one. At least in my opinion, the most popular one is Resident Evil 4.
I think it's more accessible.
Yeah,
That's why.
And that's the thing too, is like I wasn't a diehard horror guy. I wasn't a diehard survival horror game person because, like I said, I know games predate that. And the fourth one, it worked for me better. I don't want to jump off of the first one yet. I just wanted to make that reference. I want to come back to it, but I want to make sure we give the first one enough of time because it is it paved the way for everything else. Was there any other moments in the game that you guys want to reference about? I know the snake was a crazy part too, and I had a hard time fighting the snake battle, the giant snake that you had to fight. It's fairly early on too.
I'm not gonna lie, I was a very skittish child, I guess, and I did not make it very far in the game. And I tried, and I gave it a really good try to like sit down with it. I'm telling my parents, come in here with me. Just sit behind me. I mean, you don't have to like help me.
I just want to have you in my
just
peripheral.
I don't want to be alone. So
yeah, that with that game too, I didn't play. I probably played like less than half of it, and it was I played it with a friend, and so we would always toss the controller back and forth like, no, I'm done with this game, you play it. And it was always super late at night because my parents didn't want me playing games like that or watching disturbing movies or shows or whatever. So I had a friend in the neighborhood that would always come over super late at night, and we would just crawl on the window and be like, let's play this game, and we would be playing it, and it would be the scariest thing playing with all the lights off, the only light coming from the TV, and we had to be super quiet about it. So we'd be like super close to the TV so we can hear what was going on.
So then the jump scares.
Oh man, it was just super
So did you guys
terrifying.
ever yell and like wake your parents up or
man, like
anything?
I remember there was a couple times where we made noise, but nobody actually came in to check on us. It was like, what's going on? And I just remember like leaving the room and like oh, it's okay, I'm just gonna go get something to drink.
Don't worry, we weren't playing Resident Evil. Somebody just broke in my window to rape me.
pay no attention.
Pay no
to the
attention.
screen.
And I felt really, really sorry for my friend because he lived like way on the other side of the neighborhood,
go home.
and it would be like 1:00 in the morning when he's like crawling out the window, and like he's like, dude, can you just like walk halfway? I'm like, heck no. You're on your own. And I just remember him like, he'd be like, all right, I'm just gonna run all the way there. I'm just gonna run all the way there. He's like, I'm gonna call you. I'm gonna call you when I get to my house. All right, I'm gonna call you. So I'd be like sitting right next to the phone, and like it would take him like 2 minutes. And he'd be like, I'd hear it would ring once, and I'd pick up, and he'd be like, I'm here. I made it. All right.
You
I'll see you
okay?
tomorrow.
Well, here, I have to ask, like, why did he feel the need to call you? Because
Just-
I mean, like, I would understand if you were like, call me when you're okay,
'Cause
because
it
that's
would-
usually what people do.
Because it would be one of those things. It would be one of those things like, dude, if I don't make it, call the police. Type things like if I don't call you in like 15 minutes,
Some skinless
it
dog
would
chewing on
take
my ass
it would
outside.
take like 15-20 minutes to like normally walk to his house, and be like, if I don't call you at this time, like before this time, like you better go out looking for me because I'm missing.
I go looking for him. That's like the last thing you want to do.
But how old were you guys? I just have to ask.
I don't
You
even
can
know,
recollect. Just take
man.
a
I
guess.
can't. When did the game come out?
It says 96.
96. So I was like 15, 14, 15.
That's funny.
Yeah,
And this was like right
I
around like
remember because I was pretty young, and I remember it was in Pennsylvania.
Yep.
And just scared the crap. And then moving on to somehow, I don't know why, I rented Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, which actually is I don't know if it's one of the first ones to actually have a disclaimer on the front of it, but my mom happened to walk in and it's like, warning, graphic content.
That's not something you want to see a
Sequences
mom
of gore.
see.
And my mom's like, what are you playing? And I'm like, don't worry about it. Just sit next to me.
Just sit next to me.
I just don't want to be alone for it. And it just, I mean, there's never hope in these games. Like, you're just constantly waiting for something awful to happen. And
yeah, it's terrifying.
it is terrifying. It is absolutely terrifying. And then, of course, you know, it just, as the series progresses, it gets crazier and crazier.
Now, I have to ask, have either of you played the second one much? Because I've played it a little bit, but one of my good friends, Kevin, he swears by the second one. That's like one of his most favorite ones. I mean, it definitely seemed like a cool one. At the time, it wasn't one that I had a lot of access to. So, I have very brief. I think back in the day, you rent a game and it costs you $3 to $5 a night to rent the game. So, yeah, it wasn't very often that I was doing that. Same with buying new games. But I played it a little bit, I think, from a rental one time, and I know that one, are you Leon in that one? Let's see, what's it say?
It is, Leon.
So yeah, you're Leon in that one as well, just like in the fourth one, and you start off as going to Raccoon City as the new police officer, and there's already shit.
And
has
the
already,
crack goes down.
I played a little bit of that one. Yeah, I remember playing a little bit of that one. I don't remember much.
Double disc one.
Yeah, I don't remember much.
Which is pretty crazy because I think that one was pretty long because I don't believe the third one was a double disc.
I think they actually talk a little bit about it here. It's they included an option. Basically, how you play it is you play as Leon, and then you have a B scenario where you actually play as Claire.
Right, in the first one you had the multi-scenario too.
Yeah.
And in the first one, who you picked was also the difficulty mode, because if you picked Claire in the first one, she could pick locks.
Yeah.
And who was the other character in there? Was it Chris?
Chris
Was in the first one, and he could not.
Chris and who?
You had Chris and Claire, right?
Claire.
Or was it Jill?
I think it was.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't know if it's Claire.
Here, look it up real quick.
I'm gonna look
Let's make sure we're accurate here. It's probably Jill and Chris.
Chris and Jill. Yep.
So of course I've muddied it up a little bit. It was not Claire. It was Jill. Jill Valentine and Chris Redfield. Jill, would be the easy mode, of course, and she could pick locks. That was the easy mode portion of it, and but Chris would have to find the keys to make it through those doors. I mean, granted, not every door was pickable, not every lock was pickable, but that was what made the game a little bit easier. Something else to point out was that I thought was cool was their storage system and save system. Like when you had items,
getting the reams and stuff.
Yes, like you couldn't carry everything with you, so there would be like storage containers for you to put the stuff in, and when you found a storage container, you could get your stuff back out. But one of the items you'd have to get was the typewriter reams, and that's how you would save the game. And you could only save if you had a ream to save with.
Messed up.
Yes, so it's
really messed up.
So if you did not have a typewriter ribbon, you could not save the game.
You were just SOL.
You had to keep playing until you found one, essentially. Another thing I thought was cool was the herb system, how you could
mix them
together and make different combinations.
That was kind of like a deterrent a bit for me, because I'm like, oh man. And it was always, it's also for other games. Like, I eventually still played them, like the first BioShock and stuff like that, with the crafting and stuff like that. But it's always kind of a deterrent, because I'm like, oh, that's a lot of thought.
Yeah.
That's a lot of thought I got to put into this game. I have to get stuff and limit my ammunition use. I don't know. It was just.
And I will admit too, to the dismay of all the Resident Evil fans out there, the fourth one is the only one I've beaten. And again, in my own defense, the copy of Resident Evil I owned as a child would only make it into like 60% of the way of the game because the person that gave it to me had it all scratched up. And it would freeze at a certain point in the game. And again, that's the only access I had. And unfortunately, I've never went back to it. Well, I did try to go back to it, but I couldn't handle that tank-style driving. So, like, I do want to kind of force myself to sit down and complete Resident Evil, but I might have to do it with the GameCube upgrades because they just look so much nicer.
And stuff like that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think, because I do own most of those, so I think that's how I'm going to go back and replay it is the GameCube versions. And my wife is actually a fan of survival horror games, but she does not like to play them. So we're kind of a good team in that regard. Because I'm not very navigational in a lot of these games. I get lost easily. So she's kind of my Sherpa through these horror games. She likes to watch the story. She likes to help solve the puzzles, but she does not like to fight the monsters.
That's madness. Yes. That is crazy.
I was always a map maker.
Really?
I was a map maker.
You would draw out
I would draw out the maps and then like try to solve the puzzles.
I have not been a map maker since Zelda.
Oh man,
the original
yes, Zelda.
Filled in the top and top left and top right quadrants.
Use a graph paper to map everything.
I drew
out.
right on my original map. And I still have it.
Oh wow!
Laminated it with tape.
Really?
That's how I thought I would laminate it. I used like
Scotch
individual
tape.
pieces of little Scotch tape. It wasn't even a large tape. It was like little strips of Scotch tape. I completely covered the original Zelda map in.
And you still have it.
I still have it. In addition to having a nice mint copy of it as well. But my favorite one is my hand-drawn Zelda map that I have laminated. It's a nice little piece from my childhood.
I find it. I think it's kind of cool. The things about Resident Evil, and of course, there's so many revolutionary parts of the game. Just from being intensely scary. I mean, what was before that? We had,
I believe, Alone in the Dark.
Alone in the Dark, and then Eternal Darkness, right? Was that before that?
Well, Eternal Darkness was GameCube, so Resident Evil.
No, it wasn't.
That.
Yeah, it predates it. Yeah. Okay, and that wasn't. Yeah, it was kind of scary, but still, it was not as scary as.
The thing that was cool about Eternal Darkness was the head games it played. Like, it would make you think like your system wasn't working and stuff like that.
It was like the whole game was your fight.
Really?
With,
yeah, it would like mind screw you like that. Like, it was there was all times where like it would
think
act
Psycho
like
Mantis from Metal Gear Solid.
It was like the whole game was like
whole
that.
Game.
Wow.
You might want to check that out.
Like it'll make
it's
you. It'll
cool.
say. It'll start saying your things unplugged or. Like your controller's unplugged,
and then something crazy happens, and it's.
If you start seeing too many crazy things, that's when it happens. Like I didn't get very far in that game too because I got too scared. But and it's crazy. Like I love horror movies, but it's
just
hard
to
stay. And it is hard to like put myself.
Because it's not just an hour and a half thing. It's like in a movie, okay, there's going to be an ending soon.
I'm gonna have to
with the game, it's like. Yeah. I might have to spend a week or two on this game.
30 hours.
And one of those main characters that you've invested your care into is gonna
be gone.
Usually. Well, I'm just saying make it out.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, most of them are gonna die, but like maybe a couple of people are gonna make it out of that. So
and sometimes you don't even know. And that's the frightening thing. Like even with like BioShock stuff, like he's crazy. He'll kill anybody. And you're like, oh my God, I might be playing the guy and he's gonna die. And there's nothing I can do about it. But I feel like this is a good time to move on to the 4.
I want to touch 3 just
okay, let's talk about 3.
Because like Nemesis was kind of a big deal at the time because they kind of made that one arch enemy for the main character of the game. Like this is basically this person hunting you throughout the game. So in addition to the stuff you have going on, you have the Nemesis haunting you, this... Is
that how it is?
Yeah.
Because I never got that far.
Yeah, he's like this super monster that's hunting you that, wants to kill you. And, I never made it that far in that one either, just because, again, like... like you said, I wasn't much of a horror guy. Cool game and all, but... I wasn't very good at playing these by myself, and nobody, like my girlfriend at the time had no interest in that stuff, and that's why me and my wife are a good match now because she's the navigator, I'm the killer of things. And I just wanted to touch on it, but it really starts you off in madness in that as well, because I mean, there's like away. Cars on fire, and zombies attacking,
and you're separated from, and the objective immediately is something super vague, like survive till you get to here. That's it. Like that, and that you're like, well, how do I get there? What do I do? Oh my gosh, there's already zombies coming at me. What do I have to do? And you're either, I can't remember, you're Jill or somebody. I can't remember. I think it might be Chris also.
I don't know if you have the choice on that one. I think you're just Jill at the beginning, at least. I think that it's one where you switch between people as part of the plot point, if I recollect correctly.
I thought you could do before.
I don't think you have the choice at the beginning.
I think you're right.
I think that, yeah.
Control a brief portion of the game. Yeah, I guess it's mostly just Jill.
Yeah, it's mostly just Jill.
Sole protagonist. Main control there. There's other,
and she's not really dressed for combat either. She's always wearing like she's wearing like a short skirt.
She's got a tube
and
top.
Like tube top and a short skirt. That's like that's her.
That's hardly appropriate, Jill. Come on.
That's her combat gear.
Little girls watching this. Yeah, and it was It was also short-lived in my brain because
I don't think that's anybody's, like, at least the group of people I know, nobody's ever like the third one's my favorite. It's usually like 1, 2, or 4 is the ones that I hear people selecting. I do want to jump to 4 now because that's the one that is near and dear to my heart, and for everyone that I have not beat, I have beat 4 that many times, so it makes up for it. So yeah, for all the other ones I have not completed, I've completed 4 enough times to make up for it because it's just so awesome. And at the time, what got me into it is, believe it or not, many years ago, Scott and I used to work at GameStop together. And in anticipation of the game coming out, they released, a bunch of demos for us to give away to, lure people into pre-ordering it. Well, Scott and I each took those demos home and played them, and it was like, well, this is pretty fucking crazy. Because, you have the intro and...
Well, I mean, it's pretty much just the first section of the game, and... you stumble upon a shed where some lady has her head stapled to to the wall with a
pitchfork through her face. Yeah, that's right, pretty nuts.
Almost like, and then there's people popping out of everywhere.
Well, that's the thing. Like in the first few minutes, you get to this village, and when you get to the village, there's this bonfire in the middle of the village. And what are they burning? They're burning the 2 police officers that drove you there. Mm-hmm. And I believe that's who it was.
I think so.
And immediately after, I mean, this whole village is on your ass.
Descending upon you.
Yeah, so you are like literally running through a whole village trying to survive the village attacking you.
And they thought about it so well because you can throw armoires in front of doors. You can put
furniture in front of things to block it.
You can put things.
You can. There's a lot of different ways you can go.
Jump in
you
through
can
the windows.
climb up ladders. Yeah, they'll jump. I mean, they're just trying to get to you, so you got to keep mobile. If you just try to stand your ground somewhere, you're likely to be killed because you kind of have to stay mobile in this part. And then, like, I don't remember what the trigger was. I don't know if I ever figured that out. But sometimes when you play through and you get to the village, it's just the villagers and you're good. And then other times, here comes Mr. Chainsaw.
The paper bag.
He kind of looked
face, right?
I don't believe it was a smile.
I don't know, but
I thought it was like a potato sack, like Jason style from the first. I'm pretty sure it's just the old burlap sack over his head with the chainsaw. And, man, chainsaw guys in Resident Evil 4 don't fuck around.
Yeah, he really does.
They get you hard.
And they're not. You are definitely not going to survive the encounter.
Yeah,
there he is. Yep, just a paper bag. Yep. Oh,
it's not a paper bag. Come on, Scott.
Come on, I don't know. It looks more like a bag, but whatever. But the whole setup to the game seems is just really well done because how
the controls were better.
The controls are better. The controls weren't perfect though.
Tank steering was gone though, so like that was
like there's no strafing. Did you notice that there was no strafing? You just turn left and right. So there was some flaws.
I'll be honest, I'm kind of a rookie when it comes to shooter games, and I'm not much of a strafer anyway.
I think they changed it in 5, but it's still. I mean, yes, it was a little clunky, but still 10 million times better.
The controls
than
very vastly improved, and I'd like to point out also, it's one of the first. It's the departure from the traditional zombie storyline because what was the cult name? I'm trying to recollect, Scott. It was
Just pause it. See it pop out.
There's a cult and it's
Los Illuminados.
It was a cult, the Los Illuminados, and look at the explanation.
But they were also like mind controlled.
The parasites.
Las Plagas.
That's what it was. So it was a cult that then was taken over by a parasite called Las Plagas. And, I mean, it would be crazy because, at the beginning, you would shoot people, their head would explode, and then, all was good. But say, a little bit longer into the game, you start shooting people and their heads explode, and the fucking big tentacle thing comes out the top of it, and then you got to shoot that thing until it's dead. And that thing takes way more shots than that head did to explode off, and it's one of those games. What really stood out to me was there was a lot to it.
There's so many different, it was constantly changing. Like
the environment, you were
the
always
environment
in a new
changing.
area.
What you had to do was changing. So
you weren't just running around the same mansion.
They're always introducing new characters, new villains, and then all of a sudden, halfway through the game, it's like co-op. You have to keep the president's daughter alive.
And I never really felt great about the president's. That was the part of the plot that I was like, really, the president's daughter stolen by this little
silly.
shit village.
Okay, still, as a gameplay device, it was really well done.
I would have rather just had it been just some other person other than the president's daughter. Yeah, the fact that it was the president's daughter, it felt a little silly to me.
Mm-hmm. I hear you.
And it was a pain in the ass to keep her alive, for sure.
It was, telling her to hide in garbage cans. Get in there. And shoot some stuff. And I mean, there was times where you had to play as her without weapons, but there was environmental things that you could trigger to keep her alive. I remember there was a portion where you could crawl under things, and I can't remember what it was exactly, but there were things that you could use to ignite the people. There was a lamp or something like that you could throw at them. There was, or a lamp, an oil lamp or whatever. Yes. And it's pretty cool. And then there was parts where you have to keep her alive. That you're in a different area and you can shoot things coming after her and keep her alive in that crazy regard. Monks. Yeah, oh god, some of those monks running at you is nuts. And then it's every time you think that I gotta be close to the end of the game, it's here's a whole new environment, a whole new open area, different enemies, different abilities, and not boring. It's never, it just is. And then the boss battles. I mean, the first time you're on that lake and that boat and that giant leviathan creature, I don't even think you ever kill it either. I think it dies. Because it just slumps over there, I'm pretty sure. I mean, after it dies, I think it just we watched that gameplay video, it just went down into that was it.
That gameplay video was pretty terrible.
But that guy could not harpoon.
He was awful. But it's everything's enormous. All bosses are enormous.
Especially El Gigante. And then when you have to fight multiple ones.
Yeah, multiple Gigantes were always frightening.
And we forgot the choice. You have the choice to shoot the trapped animal or release it from the bear trap that it's stuck in. Yes. And then, karma pays you back if you... Is that the only time this happens, where you have these kind of choices? I feel like that's really one of the main ones. There might have been other ones, but that one really is the only one that stands out to me as a choice that affects a later event. I mean, you save that wolf, and he later helps you by distracting El Gigante while you're fighting him. Otherwise, it's a little more challenging. He's just way on you. Yes. And I did not save I don't know what I did. I don't even remember stumbling across it. Scott's I'm just do this thing here. I don't care about anything.
Fight your own battles. Get out of here yourself.
I got my own problems. Wolf. But I think the funniest thing, especially when we were working together at GameStop, and everybody was playing. Everybody at work there was playing that game. Everybody was playing this game, And everybody's like, oh, man, I beat it last night. Like, yeah, I beat it a couple days ago. Scott, where are you at? I'm like, I think I'm like halfway through. I'm getting there. And they're like, what's going on, Scott? Why can't you get through this game? It scares me. I'm sorry. It is a scary game. And I'm sitting, when I play it, I'm in my house, in my basement, all by myself. And it's
In your
dark.
basement?
Yes, in my basement, because that's where the big TV was. And there was like a little laundry room, and it was completely dark, and it just, if the door was open, it was frightening. But, I mean, I can only get like an hour in. I'm like, I'm freaking out already. I can't do this anymore. I need to watch something funny.
And I was in the same boat as you, because it was like, I would play it, and I would be really into it, and it would just make me so tense and nervous. And I would be like, all right, you don't have to work today. Why don't you just relax a little bit instead of being so tweaky the whole time? And I'd shut the game off, and I'd sit and watch TV for like 5 or 10 minutes. And I'm like, fuck, I need to play that game. And I'd be like, what are you doing to yourself? And it's funny, too, because like you were talking about GameStop, and I remember being so pissed at the one guy we worked with because he kept telling me, like, yeah, I haven't died yet. And I'm like, fuck you, you haven't died.
Yeah, you
bullshit.
definitely
I was like, there's no way you haven't died in this game.
Joe, is that his name? What was his name?
It was Randy.
Was it Randy? Yeah. He would say that. What was it? Somebody, it does keep tracks of your death, which I did not
and that's why
know.
he was telling me, he's like, yeah, I haven't died. And I was like, bullshit. There's
Like,
no way that you could play this game for the first time and not die at some of the parts.
you're shutting it off while it's trying to save your death.
It's just not possible.
Not for the first time. Unless you're playing on easy, I guess. I don't know.
I think I even played it on easy, and I mean, but still, I guess.
play always the first time through on normal.
Really?
On normal, yeah.
See, but like, I don't know. I'd rather start on easy. Because
I don't want it to be too easy, but normal is like, I can play through, I can enjoy it. There's slight difficulty, but still, I just want to play through and enjoy the game. That's
Right on.
it. That's my idea. And then if I want to play again and I want to have some challenge, I'll put it on, hard or whatever, but...
This is one that I've decided I'm going to actually force Josh to play.
Yeah, I haven't played this one, so
I'm sure you can find it real.
There's just so much to it, and it's just one of those games that like you have to experience this game.
I will attempt to play it. How's that? Because I can't do scary games by myself, but I will attempt.
Helps goad you into it. My stepmother plays this game. And it's so funny because like she plays no other games that's in this vein. Like you go through her. She has a Wii. That's the only system that my dad and my stepmother have.
Does she play on the Wii?
She does play it on the Wii. That's the version
so
she
with
has.
The little aiming
Yep.
reticle.
So she's using the. Yep. She's. You know what? I enjoyed the Wii version. I've played it on GameCube, PS2, and Wii because I love the game so much. I have it on all 3 formats, and I enjoyed it on all the formats. And I didn't mind aiming with the Wiimote to shoot. It didn't bother me at all. Really? It took a little bit to get used to. I mean, some regards, it was kind of easier to aim because you had that cross. I mean, I know you have the laser sight in the other game, but like you can just instantly point rather than you having to use the joystick to do so. But yeah, you look at her, list of games, and she's got, just like Wii Sports, and she has like just the typical
Lego Star Wars.
The family bought a Wii, and they
Lego
have all
Harry
these
Potter.
games, and then she doesn't have the Lego games, but she has like a couple Wii Sports and golf and games, and like her and my dad play a racing game. It's just very like it's not like she doesn't have survival horror pile of games or anything like that. So, but she hasn't completed it either because she'll get stuck in a spot and then like get frustrated. I think she has started it over a few times. I don't she's not a hardcore gamer or anything, so it's it's a little more challenging for her. But another cool thing to point out to you, Josh, is the weapon upgrades. Like you can choose weapons and you can upgrade them in a lot of different ways. Like, its power, its reload speed, its ammo capacity, like all these things are upgradable.
All very important things.
And we have to mention the merchant. What is his saying? Because I'm gonna say it in the mic.
It's oh man. I'm just googling. I'm googling.
Well, I can get my hands on a Wii, and I know I can borrow a Wii for an extensive period of time because I know several people who have Wiis that don't use them anymore. So
just let me know if you have any trouble tracking it.
What is it? It's 4?
Yep, Resident Evil 4.
Okay.
Wii edition.
All right.
It's wonderful. It really is good.
Thank you.
Did you get the beginning? 'Cause I want to hear his original thing he said.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I'll buy it at a high price.
But how many of you out there shot this guy the first time you saw him?
Immediately. He needed to be released from his mortal coil.
Old stranger.
But I mean, that was crazy too. The first time you run into him, because unless I'm mistaken, it was that first area where there was all those bridges that you had to, like the rope bridge style things, and it was like one of the first parts where you
There was
used
another
like
village, right?
a rifle. This is like past the original village. This is like when you're kind of getting closer to the castle. It would be like one of the in between spots.
Not with the like.
You
ski
come.
lift area.
This was right after one of the story scenes, like where you find that
get the
dude
girl.
in the armoire. Remember, he's like clobbering on it, and God, I remember you being tied up by like somebody in the plot point, and then you leave that building that you're in, and outside's this guy, and then that whole it like opens up to show you this whole open, expanded place that you have to traverse to get to the door on the other side.
Yeah, I know it.
You know what I mean, though. Like, look how big this area is.
It's the village.
It's like a shanty
It's
town
like
kind
a
of thing.
yeah. It's like a vertical shanty town on like a mountain
I
area.
remember, like, I loved like throwing grenades at this part when there was like a nice grouping of them, because like once you start shooting a few, they all start running, and I would just pitch a grenade at them.
And you could really just nail dudes in this level.
And there, we could go on about this game forever, because every boss fight's awesome. And what's the little dude's name with the fucking... It looks like a colonial hat that he's wearing. He's like a little midget, villain guy. He's one of the last...
Yeah, what? Was he bad? What did he... What is...
God, there's so much to this game. There's so many villains and sub-villains. And remember that thing that you have to freeze cryo? Like, you have to, like, you freeze it with liquid nitrogen because it's the only way you can kill it.
What about you also have to shoot like you have to have like an X-ray and shoot the particular part of the body because there's like the parasite.
Because there's like parasite on it that you have to hit, and otherwise it's invulnerable. There's so many parts that's just like
and
so deep.
It reminds me of like I think it might be a little better than this, but Gears of War, like their gameplay style is every level is different.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas you're kind of like, okay, I want to like play this type of gameplay for a little bit, whereas they switch it up too much. But this, they switch it up so much, but they really allow you to kind of like enjoy it. Okay, awesome, we're doing it this way now. Okay, awesome, we're doing this way now. But they let you.
It's like every video game scenario you could put in a game.
They really did.
It's like Resident Evil 4 is like 3 Resident Evil games.
They managed not to have a sewer level either, which was wonderful.
Never boring. I think there is a sewer level.
Is there a sewer level?
No
way. Am I just blocking it out?
There's so much to it, it's easy to forget. Resident Evil 4 sewer.
Oh my gosh, I can't. There better not be.
I think you're right. I'm almost 100% sure there's at least something that's like underneath the ground, and it's like a sewer-like area. I know there's a sewer level.
You know it?
I know there's a sewer level. I know that you're under something in a watery rank area. It's at least sewer-like. You know what I'm saying? Like, so
I think it's this. It's when this thing is coming after you.
The thing you have to freeze, right?
Or that like drops from the ceiling.
There's so much
you.
And that's the crazy thing about it. I've played this game, 5 to 10 times and beat it, and I can't. It's still I can't remember everything. It's just so big.
Yeah, I remember this level, and it constantly is like dropping out.
I know that it's not your cup of tea, but it's so good.
I will
so
attempt.
good.
I will attempt to play it.
And we will have to revisit this topic
will.
just to see what you have to say about it.
That'll be like end of a podcast. Like, what did you think, Joshua?
What'd you think?
I will have to do that.
Do you still have any clean pair of pants left?
I don't.
I never really got into 5. I tried to play it. It just coming from 4. My expectations were so high. I could never live up to it.
You play any 6?
I own 6. And
I've heard so many bad things.
I've heard. I kept hearing things about it, and after 5, I bought 6. When I bought it, I bought the Resident Evil 6 anthology, which had 1 through 6 on it, and then I sold it because I was so pissed off after I actually looked at it and realized it was just the 6th game with download codes for the other 5 games. I wanted to own the real things. You know what I mean? Like, what if that I don't want to download stuff. I want a physical copy of it. I wanted that archived 1 through 6.
It's about. It's
yes.
about collecting.
Yes. So I actually sold that and said, nope, no thank you.
That's crazy. I can't believe. What a cop-out.
Yes. It was $90 too.
Oh, my God.
It was $90 and gave you download codes. And I think it basically added up to being the exact cost if you bought the game and then just downloaded all those games at actual price on PSN.
That's crazy.
But we have to jump to another medium here because I can't talk about Resident Evil for all podcasts, even though we could. The movies. And
They're there.
But
They're
before we get into that, I found the Scary Movie.
oh my.
What is
And what's funny is I don't remember it as this name because
It might have been
It-
on another.
A lot
Well,
of times they
have
change
multiple names.
like especially of lower budget movies, they'll give them different names.
well with this one I know it wasn't because of a different name. It was because this is one of the movies I watched at my cousin's house, and I would see whatever cover it was. I'm like, I'm not watching that because it just looked scary. And so he said, no, we're not watching this. And he actually called the movie the name of the camp name. It was Camp. So he's like, no, we're watching Camp. And I was trying to find the name of the camp. But after finding this on Wikipedia, I actually found what it's called Sleepaway Camp is what it's called. And it actually tells me at the end here what the ending is. And it's actually the girl Angela is actually a boy named Peter. And the end suddenly ends with a nude and bloody covered Angela, Peter, with male genitalia in full view, standing before two other characters hissing. And that's what I remember is the hissing and the nude boy girl.
Just having the penis there, I mean, that's got to be scary enough for you as a
I was
child.
just totally shocked. I was
You're
like,
not seeing people hanging dong in movies back then.
I was
usually.
like, girls have penises too.
Oh my God, I don't want to live anymore.
I'm only 2 years old. Wow.
So that's what it was. I was trying to find the camp. I still haven't found the camp name, but after reading this is
Camp,
Sleepaway Camp. I typed it in Google, Sleepaway Camp name, and I just couldn't find it. It was like Camp something, I don't know, Awana something or Luxapos. I don't know what
It
it's
doesn't
called.
say it in here.
It does. I mean, I
I love the
skimmed.
cover art that
I
Scott
skimmed
pulls
through
up
it.
here. It's like a sneaker.
It's a sneaker with a knife through it, and it says Sleepaway Camp, and it's all bloody.
Oh, fuck your shoes up, man.
It's considered to be one of the most shocking endings among horror films.
Yeah,
crazy.
it's totally
It is pretty
shocking.
shocking.
That's crazy that you haven't watched it also, Scott.
Have you
Yeah.
seen
Gonna
it?
have to watch it now. See some dogs.
Have any of you seen it? Have any of you
I've
seen?
never
Yeah, I've never
watched
seen
I've
it.
never seen it.
It was just totally shocking to me. And like my cousins are the type that would like hold you down and you're watching this movie, you know, don't be a wussy.
Ooh, it got an 82% on Rotten Tomatoes. While most of the gender-bending story's sexual confusion is ultimately half-baked, Sleepaway Camp is distinctive enough to warrant required viewing for genre enthusiasts. I guess not. That's me, right?
Yeah.
I know.
You gotta watch it, man.
It basically told you have to watch it right there.
Jeez Louise.
I'm sad that you know the ending
Yeah.
because it is shocking. It is so shocking.
You were very forthcoming with the ending. I just want to say you kind
There
of
was
ruined it.
I think you said. It
I was
before you
I
said-
was hoping that just describing the movie, you guys would be like, "Oh, that's this movie," just like instantly.
You thought we might know it.
But apparently, I was the only one who watched it.
That's crazy. Robert Hiltz.
I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch it just so I can know the name of the camp, because that's what my cousin would always be like. And then every time I'd go and visit them again, they'd be like, "We're gonna watch this movie, Camp," blah. And I'm like, "No, we're not watching
Camp
that."
Arawak.
Arawak. Okay. Yep. Yep.
Here
I wanted to say Awana, but I was like, no, that's it.
Salute your shorts.
Yeah. Camp Anawana. Yeah. Camp Arawak. Yep.
So
There's molestation in this movie.
It's
Or
it's
attempted
disturbing. It's so
molestation.
disturbing.
It is an exploitation.
why do
so
your
maybe-
cousins want to watch disturbing movies?
It
love
was
penis.
it was more or less like they
torture
weren't.
you?
It was to torture me and like whoever else was there, like little kids, because it would be me, like I'm one of their cousins, and they would have like another cousin from like the other side of the family that I wasn't related to there. And I just remember it would be like 3 or 4 of us that like, we're innocent, we don't want to watch this, and they're like, we're watching it, sit there. And they would like hold us down and like try to hold our eyelids open on all the scary parts. And I just remember one of my other like not related cousins, but another cousin, he was like half my age at the time. He was probably like 6 or 7, and he'd be like crying like into a pillow, like, take the pillow out of your face, watch this.
My, this is intense.
And that's how I watched this movie, Hellraiser, Pet Cemetery, Friday the 13th.
You got
Yeah.
real horror movie.
Yep.
Horror movie
All of them like
That is
that.
a real. You got coerced into watching
Yeah.
those movies.
Yeah, it's
Under
part of my
duress.
it's part of my
Under duress.
childhood.
I'm sorry about that, and I'm sorry. Hellraiser is not an easy horror movie.
No, it's fucked up.
I've blocked out a
disturbing.
lot of stuff from
There's
those
a lot
movies.
of like disturbing sex, and
It's
too.
it's
Like,
very
just-
disturbing. Now these are the kind of people that hung out with. I just remember going fishing with them at like a little pond, and like these are the kind of people that I'm describing. Now I love them to death, and they're just hilarious. Their friends, they would like start fighting while we were fishing, and they would throw the other one into this lake, and like to get back at each other. I just remember the one friend, he's like, oh, I got a surprise for you, and he like squatted in the water, and all of a sudden you see these floaters around him,
Oh no! Jeez.
and that's not the bad
That's
bad part. He picks one up and
Ah.
tosses it at the guy who threw him in the water, and it hits the guy.
Ah.
It like splatters like across his chest, and the guy's like F you, and he like jumps into the water, and they're like wrestling in the water, and then like after like a minute or two, they kind of stop and look at each other like, okay, like, all right, I'm just gonna take the shirt off and leave it here, and kind of bathe myself, and then they just kind of get up and go back to what we were doing, and I'm like, this is disturbing.
Yeah,
Like,
you guys got some shit going on here, literally.
it's pretty crazy.
That is crazy.
All right.
That's some disturbing
All right,
memories.
back to the
Yeah.
movie.
Okay. So Resident Evil.
So they decided, successful game, why not successful movie series?
Let's give it to a subpar writer director, and hopefully something good will happen. And I'd have to say, I didn't hate the first one.
It wasn't terrible.
I
They
didn't-
did an okay
It was
job
definitely
putting it
not
on the big
scary.
Because
It
at the
was-
time, especially, if you think about the video game movies that predate this, the
They're-
bar wasn't set too
they're pretty
high.
bad.
It really wasn't.
Like Street Fighter
Or Mario Brothers.
or Mario Brothers. Oh wow.
So the fact that they're
Double
even
Dragon.
attempting to
Double
continue
O.
to make video game movies, period, we should be happy.
Yeah, that's true.
When they created the Resident Evil movies, they didn't go with any of the pre-established characters. Mila Jovovich was a character named Alice, and it was at the mansion, sort of, because like the mansion, I want to say they kind of combined the first and second game, because the second game's got that underground facility,
Is there no underground facility in the first one?
not like the movie.
Hmm.
There's underground stuff like part of the mansion, but there's not like a science thing, like
Yeah.
a lab
Yeah.
or whatever. But in this movie, there's an AI controlled facility. The Red Queen controls this facility that's underneath the mansion, and it kind of goes ape shit because the virus gets. Somebody in the movie breaks the virus because they're stealing it, and then they break a vial of it to kind of cause, chaos down
So they
there.
can get out.
Yes, and then the Red Queen locks
it
the
down.
place down because people are contaminated, and it doesn't want to let the zombie infected people out of the facility. And so what they do is they send Alice in. Oh, hold on, let me fix this.
She kind of
Alice wakes up in the
Yeah.
mansion.
She wakes up in the mansion.
And she has like those vague.
She has no memory.
Yeah, like she'll have like flashes here and there of like her and like a guy in the mansion. I guess they were basically like caretakers of the mansion to guard the facility, kind of thing. And so her and a group of people,
Yeah, there's some
adventurers,
commandos come and like assault the mansion, and she's there, and she gets like taken.
So they take her down including Michelle Rodriguez, who I've never been a big fan of because I always feel she comes off
She's
super
part of the
forced,
team,
super
right?
fake.
I
Yes,
think she's part of the team.
she is.
Okay.
I've never really cared for her
She's not.
because I just don't think she's a great actress. She just kind of comes off super cheesy, tough guy thing, and they go down into the mansion to, try to stop the chaos, and they even interact with the Red Queen, and there's all kinds of
Laser.
Oh, I forgot about the
laser
lasers.
sequence is actually
It's pretty
kinda
crazy.
Well done.
Yeah, they have that.
It has a really good build and
then
a really good climax.
Big pile
and
of meat left
and a
over
lot
at
of
the
dead
end.
people. A lot of dead commandos.
I haven't seen the movie yet, so I
But
haven't seen any of them yet.
It's good. It's a well done sequence, and it's.
And then they have the lasher in that
The liquor.
movie. Is it the liquor? Are you sure it's the liquor? I always.
That's what it says right here.
Oh,
Liquor.
the liquor.
The lickies.
So yeah, he's fun.
Yeah.
He's always almost like an afterthought.
I was
though.
kind of disappointed. Like, none of his interactions with anything look.
It's not really well
believable,
done.
and
Yeah.
it doesn't look. I don't know if it's just the.
I thought it was funny that they decided they wanted to explain the skinless dogs because I don't recall them being. Were they explained in the game? Because I don't recall that.
I doubt it. Yeah.
Well, in the movie, it shows that they
It's ripped
busted
off
through
from their
the cages they were
cages.
in, like basically shredded their skin
Oh.
off
because
they
it peeled
like,
them.
yeah, they like basically
And they didn't
chewed through
care.
like the metal grating and like it was like fencing almost, and they like squeezed through it and like it pulled their skin off. But yeah, it's it pulls a lot of elements from the game series into it, and it was a decent movie. It's not like greatest thing ever made, but it was entertaining, and honestly, in my opinion, it's really the only good one of them. The rest of them, they have okay parts, but overall, they're usually
The
a
second
little
one was
cheesy.
abysmal. I saw it in the theaters, and it was, and yes, it.
They
really,
tried to add Nemesis in it.
and they really tried to follow a lot of the second, or Nemesis,
The third.
a third, and like they maintained all the characters. Of course, they changed the plot a lot, but
They introduced Jill.
they had Claire, they had everybody. I think they had
Are you
almost
sure Claire
everybody.
was in it?
I think Chris was in it. I'm almost pretty sure they had just about everybody from the third one in it. Jill.
Because I think Jill's the only other character they introduced. Because there's Carlos. I think it's just Jill.
They
big guy.
made up some dudes. What's
Yeah,
that
I
about?
think Jill's the only other actual character they put
Oh,
in.
you're right. I
Yep.
swear I remember it being a lot more, but I guess not. But
yeah, but in the second one, they decided to introduce Jill.
and it was like a headshot city all the time. Like nobody missed the head when they were shooting zombies. Like it was just
I didn't care for the Jill character either. I thought she was really cheesy.
yeah,
and, like,
super.
they tried to
cheap.
give her that super tough girl facade, and,
And
it
the
didn't
same
it came off
outfit.
really forced. Yeah, and the outfit.
same
and
outfit
it's
was just bad.
just- Yeah.
But I really thought it was cool. I mean, because the first one actually kind of ended kind of cool.
I have watched the rest of the movies in the series, but they've made such a little impact on me because they weren't that great that I barely recall anything from them. Like, they're like a lot of them are like like a post-apocalyptic type world. You know what I mean? And it's like us versus the Umbrella Corporation and us versus the zombies, and like even like in some of them like even like crows and stuff like that were infected. So like they had like hordes of crows that they had to watch out for.
Yeah, it was
murder
like a
of crows.
Western-
call it.
You know what? I remember something like that. I remember there were like I remember seeing part of the movie. I must have been at a friend's house or something, where they're like in this desert or something, and they're
Yes.
crows, and they're like all these
It's like
abandoned
It's
cars.
like a convoy of
And
people.
and I remember them in a
Completely
bus. I remember this
abandoned the
bus
whole-
scene, and I was like, "What is this?" And I remember the guys like, "Oh, this is Resident Evil."
They'd
It's like,
com-
whoa.
At that time, they'd completely abandoned any kind of story that was
Oh, really?
established in the game.
They're just kind of doing their own thing. Yeah.
Mm.
I kind of wish they would make one based on the fourth game.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like,
I mean, as long as it had a
It doesn't-
decent story, because I mean, the story wasn't super great.
it was all right if you condensed it down into a more manageable thing rather than having it strewn out about across however long it took us to beat the game.
Check this.
Which one is that?
Retribution has
What
Las
ye-
Plagas.
What year is it? Because I might not have watched that one.
This is the one I
20
watched.
2012?
2000.
I don't
Scroll-
think I don't
scroll
think I
down, I'll
watched
tell
that
you.
one. I know I
It
haven't.
starts in where everything's going backwards. Like she's
Okay,
on this
so I haven't
like
watched
thing.
this one then.
And then after everything's, she's in this super action matrix, everything's going backwards. Then it immediately cuts, and she's like a mom,
That's weird.
and she's like and then immediately zombies are coming in. She's trying to save her daughter. Her husband gets killed by the zombies, and she's in the attic. And I think it actually gets her daughter too. I don't even know. But then I'm like, what's going on here? I have
And,
no idea.
and a lot of the movies too, she has like stuff in her bloodstream from like the T virus or whatever, and she's almost like superhuman in some of them as well.
At one point, I mean, at this end of the second one, she was like telekinetic. She was like because she was walking out of that Japanese facility, and the guy was looking at her through the teleprompter, and his head was like cracking because she was like killing him. And
There's a
that
lot of
was when I was
unexplained
like,
things
I'm
going
done.
on.
I'm done watching these movies. That was when I was like, okay, not interested
You
anymore.
lie though, because you weren't done because you came back.
It was on TV, and I was like, okay, I'll check it out.
I'm super drunk, and I'm just gonna watch this.
But yeah. So it's I don't know what to say about it, but apparently they're making more of them.
Well, unless they're fibbers like the Friday the 13th series, the next one coming out in 2016 is called The Final Chapter.
Oh,
Unless they decide, the final chapter was successful, so it's not so final
what if
anymore.
they change the working title to Alice Goes to Hell?
But the Resident Evil series, it's definitely had an impact on a lot of gamers, and I can't see it not continuing as a series unless Capcom really steers it into the ground. But
Yeah.
I'm hoping for another one that'll be as good as 4, so that I'll want to play it again.
And just experience the terror. Like, I love like a good like something scary, because there's just sometimes when it's night and you're like, you know what, I kind of gotta get a little scared. I want to get a little scared. I want to get on the covers.
I'd like to put a little streak in my pants tonight.
I'm
Not me. I'm not that kind of person.
No, you don't wanna.
No,
Okay.
I don't.
I want to turn
do
on all the lights, watch some Paranormal Activity or something like that. I don't know. But I do. I look forward to well done, survival horror games. I mean, I have a really hard time getting into Silent Hill. I have a,
They're
really
cool
hard
games.
time.
I played a little Silent Hill.
I don't. It's definitely not on par with.
I
like,
think that
Resident
the
Evil.
first Silent Hill movie is a lot.
The movie, yeah, it's
Is
good.
very well done compared to the Resident Evil
Mhm.
series, for sure.
Oh yeah. It's what's his name? Roger Avery of Pulp Fiction
It's
fame.
a pretty crazy movie.
It is crazy, and I think they do. And when you like go back and you read about the game and the movie, you see how really
It's
tried
twisted.
they tried to stay pretty close to it, and they were a little less ambiguous at times. But I think
Yeah,
they
a lot
did
of
pretty
times, there's like similarities in the Resident Evil movies, and then it's just kind of like almost there's just little Easter eggs that tie it together, because for the most part, it really is a departure from the source material quite a bit.
Yeah, it's incredibly, and it's so sad because we're there's millions of gamers that just want to see a decent game movie made.
And I don't think it's going to be. I mean, we're starting to get them, and I think
We got our comic book movies,
and that's the thing that I keep telling everybody. I was like, just like how comic book movies are now, I think video game movies will be in that position in about a decade.
I hope so.
I mean, I think that they'll be big budget. I think that they'll be pulling in Avengers kind of audiences, just like the comic book
They
movies.
just need to. They need
They need to keep having people.
They need backing.
Put
you know,
quality movies out, not just schlocking
Not
something
you
out
bull.
under the name value. Yeah. Oh my God. If anybody's going to try to drive that industry in the ground, that's you bull.
It's the
House of the
worst.
Dead, Afraid of
Far
Alone in
Cry.
the Dark. I mean, it's my goodness.
It's really ruined a lot of franchises.
And it's just like, why after every? I mean, it's a running joke to people. Why would they keep giving this guy movies when they talk about how bad the ones he makes are? Is it just like, well, he's a director, guess we give him work?
It's they're. I mostly blame the video game companies because they're selling him the rights. I mean, yes, and they know the game. After the first one, everybody knew what his intentions are, and
Pump out a piece of shit.
pump out a piece of garbage, and everybody's disappointed. And now we won't get a decent House of the Dead game. We won't get a movie. We won't get a decent Far Cry movie. Not that those games were really something we were looking forward to.
So at least he
but-
didn't ruin anything too
Yeah.
great. I mean, at least he bought some. I mean, I apologize to the people out there that love them, but they're not as widely loved as many of the other ones that he could have ruined.
I mean, I loved House of the Dead, but yeah, it's not like it was like the story blew me away when I was playing in the arcade. But
There's not much story to it, really. So I guess maybe he did base it right off of it.
Oh.
He's like, this is pretty close. I don't know, but there was like more period piece. Like it was like 60s, I think, when in the game. I don't know, but I thought it was cool. But what are you gonna do? Hopefully, in the future, we can only pray that Paul W.S. Anderson stops making movies, and he could die. I don't know, one of those things. And somebody who's maybe competent starts making movies, and he just so happens to enjoy video games, and we get some decent video game movies, and it just starts a snowball effect. I hope. I don't know what video game would you love to see in a movie?
Ooh.
I'm really gonna have to think about this. I mean,
I keep wondering why they haven't, taken some of the Nintendo properties and made them into movies. I would love to see a movie based on Super Metroid or Castlevania.
Yeah.
you can't choose two.
Even or like Zelda.
Zelda, you took it from me. I was gonna say.
I was gonna say
or even
Zelda
or Metal Gear. I would
Metal
love to
Gear.
see a Metal
Oh my
Gear.
goodness, that would be great.
I mean,
as long as they cut it down.
I mean, yeah. I mean, the games are getting to the point where they're so cinematic
They're
that it's like
practically
it's
movies.
practically an animated movie, a
The
CG movie,
next
but it's
Metal
so.
Gear is gonna be ridiculous.
Yeah.
There was directors of like movies saying this is the most
Oh, really?
amazing cinematic movie.
That's crazy.
Great game ever made, and it's not it's not released yet, but.
And like the Zelda one, they're actually talking about making a TV series out of.
Oh, wow.
Which I'm surprised because
Which we put on Facebook.
I'm surprised because I kept waiting for them. I think Nintendo's still butthurt from the Mario Brothers one, so they're all afraid to.
Yeah, yeah.
But I just can't imagine them not. They have such an arsenal of characters that they could just start.
The premise is so cool.
Yes.
Like, it's such a cool premise, and who doesn't love all the things that are encompassed in the premise, like sword fighting,
Yeah.
and magic,
Magic.
A kid that becomes the hero.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're just
and you're fighting. I mean,
cool
and you're
dungeons to explore.
saving a princess. I mean, there's so many great parts to that game that they could just make into an amazing show
Yeah.
or movie or whatever. And I would just love to see a decent Max Payne movie. That's all.
It's never gonna happen.
It's
That bridge is
not.
burned.
It's not. I mean, at least for the next, I don't know, maybe decade. I can wait. Just give me $100 million. I'll make an amazing Max Payne movie starring the guy who does the voice of Max Payne.
It makes sense to me.
It makes perfect sense.
But I hope you all had a lot of fun talking Resident Evil today. I know I did, and check us out next time. Hopefully we'll hear back from Josh having played Resident Evil 4 and drinking the Kool-Aid with all of us.
For sure.
Kool-Aid.
Check us out. Meanwhile at Warp Zone, you can check us out on Facebook, warpzoneonline.com. Our website's the same. all the other, social media.
Yeah,
happen-
iTunes.
iTunes, of
and,
course, and YouTube. I mean, check us out. Meanwhile, at Warp Zone. And just like it ends for many of us in the games,
You are dead.
hopefully.
They're all fantastic.
The Empire strikes back with multiple laser attack, Decepticon infiltration, stealing information, typing communications with Recordicons, target massive sound wave stereo. I don't believe in a no-win scenario for an epic adventure, no retreat, no surrender. Cleaning up the city with Mayor Mike Hagar, clashing with the Foot Clan in the shadows of the streetlights, spotlights, bright lights, and if you got a new pet, don't feed him after midnight. Cruising on our bicycles, we never say die. From the attic to the basement, uncovering the secrets with the power bracelet. Ryu and Ken style, kicking it on the pavement. 88 miles per hour, we at a time. Meanwhile, at Warp Zone.